Hey, thanks for everybody joining today. Exciting day. First, I guess, official practice, even though they have been doing a lot of workouts and so on. But this time we can go a little longer and, exciting, of course, have Kara and her staff, leading the way here. But to kind of turn it over to Kara and kind of talk about first practice, and we'll open up for questions.
Thanks, Lindy. We just got off the court here a little bit ago. I thought it was a solid first session, continuation of what we've been teaching throughout the preseason. I think our players have done a great job of trying to pick up as quickly as possible what we're trying to teach them, and to just really try and understand those concepts and work hard to try and make reads and to finish the way we want them to. And so I've been really pleased with our group to this point, and I thought it was a good first session. It honestly wasn't much different, with the exception of the five being able to do some 5-on-5, but wasn't much different than a lot of the breakdowns that we've been doing throughout the preseason. So pretty sure if you talk to our players, they would say that it felt pretty similar to what we've already been doing.
When we start out here with Chris Clark, first question.
Coach, thanks for taking the time, and love the background too. Way to set that up. Some of these don't look so nice, but I know it's early. But once you get your system and your identity on this team here, what would you like it to be known for? Some coaches go for the defense, some get up and down the floor fast-paced. What would we know this Duke team to be known for under your coaching?
I'm kind of greedy. I'd like to be solid on both ends. I'd like to be a solid defensive team. I'd like to be a solid offensive team. I'll be honest, Chris, a lot of this is still being figured out, because you have to see what works with your players as you get into practice, and you have to see what's good for them as well. So that'll be an ongoing process with us in our first year, as we're trying to, as best we can, accentuate the strengths of our players and to see what fits them the best. And then it's also relative to the opponent, who you're playing, and what are your strengths and weaknesses relative to them. So that's going to change on a game by game basis for us, but we want to be solid defensively. We don't want to foul. We don't want to put teams on the free throw line. We don't want to give away free points on the offensive end. We don't want to turn it over, and we don't want to give away free points that way. So if I was going to pick one thing on each end, I would say those two things. We want to try and take care of the ball offensively, and then defensively, we want to be able to challenge without fouling and not give away free points. And the rest of the stuff we're going to see. I'm not being coy. I'm sure we'll play some man. I'm sure we'll play some zone. Don't know percentages of what we'll do yet. We'll wait and see. And we'll run different types of sets. So we're not just going to be locked into one thing. So we'll find out which ones work the best for our group, and go from there.
All right. Let's next go to Bridget Condon with WTVD.
Hey, Coach. What have you found about the players responding to the new coaching staff, and do you feel like they're buying in? And then also, are you surprised at where they are right now, or is this, for the first practice, their level, their skills, is this exactly where you want them to be right now?
I felt a great deal of buy-in from our players in terms of trying to learn what we're teaching them, and we've seen a lot of growth already in them learning those concepts, and so I've been pleased. The coaching staff has been pleased with that. As far as where they are or where I thought they would be, I honestly don't spend too much time thinking about where I think they should be or will be. I think it's more of if they show me they're capable of handling more, then I give them more, right? And if they show me that it's too quick, that it's progressing too quickly, then pull back. And I think you just have to have that daily, as a coach, you got to have that daily read on kind of what you're doing. And sometimes you have to pull back. Sometimes they're ready to handle more. So I just try to stay in tune with that as I'm observing them, as we're putting in new stuff, and see what they're able to pick up. And if they're able to pick it up well, then we shovel some more on there and see how they do with it.
Thank you. And I have a quick follow-up, if that's okay. Is there a sense of relief having this first practice and the season starting as planned as of right now, or is there that uncertainty still there about we don't exactly know what's going to happen?
Again, I haven't really thought that far ahead. I try to just focus on having a good day of practice and then watching the film, which I'd usually do right after. So you guys are delaying me a little bit in doing that, but I usually like to do it right after practice. Get a second look at it all after I've already seen it, and see where we really are, and then go about planning the next day. Is not a controllable for us, whether we play or when we play or who we play or any of those things. So I don't really think about it. Honestly, I just try and look at what the schedule is for the day and go from there. I don't even look at my schedule. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing on Friday right now. I'm sure there's stuff in the calendar, but I just look the night before I go to bed. I look at the next day and see what the schedule is. And then I focus on that then. And that seems to have been working for me, to just worry about what I've got going on the next day or that day that I'm in.
All right, Jim Sumner, you're up.
Hey, Terry, good seeing you again. Sorry about the film work. But you can blame that on Lindy. What's the top of your to-do list? What needs to get fixed first or improved first? What are you prioritizing in these first few weeks of practice?
Well, for me, in the first few weeks, we're just trying to install as much as we can. So you're trying to put in your system and put in your offenses and your defenses. So the priority is that, putting them in. But like I shared earlier, you don't want to put things in too quickly if they're not being done correctly, or if the players aren't grasping them. So that's what we're doing, is just putting our stuff in and making sure that the players have a good understanding for it, a good feel for it. They understand the terminology of it, and then we can just start stacking more of our installations one after another.
Have you spent a lot of time looking at films of last year's teams to get an idea of what your players can and cannot do? Or are you more or less starting from scratch?
I did that in the summer before I even met them in person. And then obviously we've had, I don't know how many weeks it's been since they've been on campus, but we've had that many weeks of evaluation where you get them on the court. And that's really more indicative of what they can or can't do, because sometimes a system can dictate what they're allowed to do in it. And maybe they can do more, or maybe they can't do more. You don't know until you get them on the court. So we've used the preseason workouts as a chance to see where the skill level is, and as the skill level continues to grow, then we'll make the necessary adaptations.
All right, how about Mitchell with High Point Hoops?
Hi, Kara. Yeah, you talked about it a little bit answering Bridget's question there. I was just wondering, with everything going on this year, we've seen the college football schedule change like every week. I don't know if that's going to be the same for basketball, but do you have any idea what your non-conference slate might look like, or is that something that's sort of just evolving, as we kind of gear up for it?
Yeah, it's just evolving. We're still waiting on the ACC to get that schedule, and then it kind of falls after that. So one domino's got to kind of get pushed down first, and then we'll be able to work on those other ones. It is unique because you're not going to play as many non-conference as you normally do in a season. And so we'll have to figure all that out with respect to the COVID protocols and all of those things. So I'm waiting for it too, man. I'm ready to have it like yesterday. So soon as we get that, then we'll hopefully be able to have those pieces fall into place and let you know about it.
Sure. And the one other question I wanted to ask, Vanessa De Jesus, I hope I'm not pronouncing that right. She's like your only true freshman, I think, this year. Just wondering kind of what you've seen out of her so far in preseason workouts, and what you can expect from her this season.
Yeah, I think V's done a solid job. It's a big challenge to come in as a freshman and like you mentioned, be the only one. And so a lot of everything is new for her, not just the basketball portion, but obviously the rigorous academics and how getting used to classes and getting used to time management and getting used to all those things that are different and are more challenging than being in high school. I think she's done a really good job. She's focused, she's disciplined, she works hard, she gives great effort every day, and so I'm pleased with how Vanessa is, how she's progressed, and I think she's going to be a big part of our team this year. And I think she's going to grow a lot through the year as well. She seems to be a player that if you put more in front of her and challenge her, she's going to work hard to meet it. So I like that about her.
All right. We'll next go to Brendan Marks with The Athletic.
Hi, Kara. Thanks so much for taking the time. In some of the availabilities we've had with the men's players and the men's staff, they mentioned how getting back on campus later and sort of the adjustments you guys have had to make in terms of protocol was actually beneficial and that it allowed for more individual learning rather than group sessions. I was just wondering, how have the COVID protocols and precautions sort of impacted the ways that you're teaching, the process that you're teaching, and have you seen some of those similar benefits from more individual work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm probably the worst person to ask it, though. I mean, I didn't have an old way, Brendan, because I've never coached in college before. So they're going to have, far more insight than I will on that topic. But I'm a teacher, and I firmly believe in individualized teaching as we go about it. Being a new coach and having to do a lot of teaching, I can say that having the limited numbers, there was a stretch we could only have one player, one coach. There was a stretch we could only have two players, one coach. That was beneficial for a new staff to be able to get not only that teaching in, but to be able to get that one-on-one time with the players as you're trying to learn personalities and you're trying to be around them. We couldn't be around them as much. We weren't exposed to them as much off the court because of the COVID protocols. And so to be able to get that in the workout, that's where I noticed a big difference for us early on, was being able to have that one-on-one time with not just myself, but our assistants, since we were meeting each other for the first time face-to-face just 12 weeks ago, or actually probably 10 weeks ago. And so that part has been good for us. Certainly the delayed start to the season, it's a little bit later than normal. That's been good for us as a new staff because we get a little more time, with them in the preseason, a little more time to teach. We don't have the benefit of having juniors and seniors that know our system like the back of their hand and can kind of help the younger players. Everyone's a freshman for us in terms of learning our system. So those things have been good, but I just don't have we normally do it this way and now we're doing it that way. This is the only way. Maybe next year I'll be like, hey, this is way different than last year because it was COVID, and now hopefully, fingers crossed, next year we got regular stuff going on.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. How about Aaron Beard with the Associated Press?
Hey, Kara, you talked about as you install, you give them what they can handle. They can handle more, you give them more. If they can't, you teach it. I'm curious, how are you wired in terms of patience? A lot of times with a new coach, you want to get as much done as you can, as quickly as you can. Are you patient enough to sort of deal with the time it takes for them to learn and the time it takes for them to gel under your coaching, all those things that go into a transition?
Yeah, I'm patiently impatient. That's how I describe myself, right? I think there's a nuance to it that we all have had to experience. I think in professional life, it doesn't matter if you're a coach, if you're a reporter, whatever you are, there's times where patience is required, and there's times where people need nudges to get going. And so that's a part of the nuance of trying to feel those things out. Is this a time to exhibit patience? Is this a time to push a little bit? And if you really think about it from a teaching standpoint, that's really like the essence of what it is, right? It's knowing as a teacher, it doesn't matter if you're basketball, you're whatever sport you are, it doesn't matter if you're elementary school or you're high school, whatever it is, when you teach, you have to be patient enough for them to be able to learn it, but you have to be willing to be impatient enough and challenge them enough to push them to go a little farther than maybe they're courageous enough to get to at that point. And so I think you're always doing that as a coach. You're doing that every day. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm great at it, but it's something that I try to observe very closely as to how quickly or how slowly we're picking things up. And then also, as you get to know someone more and more, as you're around them more and more, you start to really understand their capabilities, both mentally and physically. And then you can almost know if they're going to pick it up fast or slow before you even teach it to them, because you kind of know how their brain works, or physically how they move, and how that's going to happen. So you can almost plan for and know, hey, you know what, this is going to take us longer than I think. I need to build this for 15 minutes instead of just 5 minutes when we're teaching it. Okay, we'll pick this up pretty quick because this is really similar to this action we did 3 days ago. We'll be able to knock this out in 10 minutes. This section of practice doesn't need to be 15 or 20. So that's kind of how you end up building your practice in terms of the times, or at least how I end up building my practice in terms of the times, and get better and better at figuring out, how much time you need to devote to those things.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Rod Baxley with the Fayetteville Observer.
Hey, Kara, just wondering what you've noticed from Michaela Boykin over the last few months as far as her growth and leadership on and off the court.
Yeah, Michaela is an important player for us. We don't have a lot of players, Rod, with a ton of experience in playing in the ACC. We have a lot of players on our roster, particularly our young players that didn't get a chance to play a ton last year. So to have an experienced player like Michaela that's played in a lot of big games, that has the high level skill, the high level basketball IQ that she does, that's really important for us. We're definitely more settled team when Michaela's out on the floor, because she's very confident, and she has a good understanding of what we're trying to do, and she also has the skill to be able to execute what we're trying to do. So we're going to count on her a lot this year. Her leadership, certainly her skill level, her intelligence, all is going to be really important for us.
All right, next, Chris Lee from WRL.
Hi, Coach Lawson. Thank you so much for your time today. I wanted to ask about relationship building. I know that your time being here, a lot of what you have to do is build a relationship with the players since you're here. And I know it's usually a slow build, but sometimes there is a moment where things kind of change. And I look at the picture over your right shoulder at the rally that was on campus, and I'm wondering if maybe that was a moment things start changing, or if there's another moment that you have in mind where you noticed that this happened as a team, we got through this together, and it seemed like things started clicking a little bit more for us. Can you take us into that moment, whatever that moment was for this team?
Well, I definitely think it was a powerful moment for our group. It certainly was for me. I don't want to speak for the players. I would let them speak for that themselves. To have a group of young women support you in your moment of need. It doesn't matter, who you are, or if we've all experienced, like, we've been in a moment of need, right? Whatever it is. And when people come to your aid when you're in a moment of need, that's impactful, and that's powerful, and that's something that feels really good to be supported. And so that's what that symbolizes to me. It's more about them than it is about me. In that sense, is them sensing that, and then also supporting me in that. And that's what a relationship is, really. It's being in a relationship with someone where you support each other. When things are going well, you support each other when things aren't going well. And our group is still new to one another. And those daily conversations we have, those daily interactions we have, all are a part of building the foundation. So I would say that, yes, that was a powerful moment, but we've had other powerful moments too that weren't on the stage in front of people, right? And those things are a part of being on a team. That's why I love being on a team, because you have a season that's full of those types of things, and you just never know what's going to happen. You never know when you're going to be in a position to help somebody. You're going to be in a position to support them, and that's hopefully what our group will be about. Every staff member, every player is going to understand and feel supported, and know that if they have an issue, or they have something that they need, that the group is going to be able to provide that for them.
And I have a follow-up, if I may. You started off in the NBA bubble, and then the week that it ends, you begin practice as the head coach of the Duke Blue Devils. How crazy has this last 4 months been, as far as, like, you, of course, go inside the bubble not expecting this. You're wanting to win a championship with the Celtics. Have you thought about that, and how long that process probably was for a lot of people being down there, and what you've been able to do in that amount of time?
Yeah, I thought I'd be on vacation right now. I thought about that. I'd be on vacation right now if I was still in the NBA. But no, that was a long time for those players to be in there, and cut off even more cut off than we are here from daily life, and from their family, and from their friends, and from just even interaction, face-to-face interaction with strangers. Because even we get some of that here. If you go to the grocery store, you go, to a restaurant, whatever it is, them having to do that was a big personal challenge for all the teams and players and coaches. But more excited. I mean, I did miss out on the games portion of the bubble. I was in the bubble, but I missed out on the games portion of the bubble. So more than anything, just excited to be trending toward games, because I haven't coached a game since, March, right? So I haven't felt that live action since March with the Celtics. So I'm definitely looking forward to that happening towards the end of November.
All right, we'll next go to Jim Sumner.
I want to ask you about Jade Williams. She's a senior this year, 6'5", and she's a player who at times has shown the ability to dominate, but she hasn't been able to do that on a consistent level. What does she have to do to take that next step and be a dominant post presence every night?
Yeah, consistency is one of the hardest things to find as a player. It's one thing to have a great game one night, and it's another thing to follow it up with another great game. And so, what we really focus on with all our players is just consistency in terms of their focus and their effort. And I feel like if those two things are aligned for players, then they're going to have a great shot at being consistent. If they come in every day and they play with great effort, and if they're focused on the details of what we're trying to achieve and the details of our system, then they're going to set themselves up to be really consistent. And so I would say those are the two things that for Jade, that not just for Jade, but for every player on the team, but those are the two things that she would need to focus on to bring consistency, is having great effort every day, and then being focused within the live play. And if she's able to do that, then she should have consistent games.
Have you seen that so far? Or is this still a work in progress?
Yeah, I think it's all a work in progress in practice. Just like all of our players, she's had some really good days. She's had some days where I thought she could have been better, and it's trying to limit as many of those days that yet you haven't performed up to where you want to as possible. And we talk about that with our group. You're going to have some bad days. They're inevitable. Just don't have too many of them, right? Can you limit them? Can you bounce back quickly? Can you make it not a bad day? Maybe it's a bad first hour of practice. Maybe it's a bad first half hour of practice. Just try to find ways to limit the time that you're not focused, or you're not giving the effort that we want. And as college players, that's what you're challenging them with, is to bring that every day.
Gotcha.
All right, we'll next go to Peter Kortrumpus with Triangle Sports Network.
Thanks, Kara. You have a couple of international players, Australians. Can you give a little perspective on how they can enhance not only on the court but off the court, and they have a little bit more maturity that you may be leaning on? Can you talk a little bit about them, Sarah and Mila?
Yeah, just the Australians or the Nigerians?
Yeah, just yeah, Onome as well. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so we have two Australians, Mila and then Sarah, and then we have two Nigerians, Onome and Jennifer. So we have four international players on our team. They all bring something different in terms of how, you know, their skill and certainly their personalities. I mean, four completely different personalities. I think they, you know, Mila and O in particular, because they're juniors, they're third year in the program, third year at Duke. So they kind of know what's going on, especially outside of the basketball court in terms of their studies. They're both very focused in the classroom and bring a great maturity to how they comport themselves off the court. On the court, they're both going to be really valuable players for us. We don't have a ton of players that, as I spoke to earlier in the call, that were in the rotation last year on our team. And there's two players that were in the rotation last year that started games that were valuable pieces. So that experience of playing in the ACC and being able to produce in the ACC is valuable from those two. Sarah is new to us this year, hasn't been a part of Duke before. Jen did not play last year. So for all intents and purposes, she is new to Duke. So just trying to get them as up to speed as possible in what we're doing. And they both have been doing a great job of just working and just being a part of what we're doing and trying to pick things up really quickly. So I'm pleased with all four of those players and where they are.
Thanks.
All right, Spencer Levy with Duke Chronicle.
Hi. So we previously spoke about Michaela's leadership and then sort of alluded to some other players. Are there other players that haven't been mentioned that maybe in the sophomore and junior crew that have shown a lot of leadership, especially from players that have only played not a full season or just over not even a full two seasons? Is there, I guess, a player that maybe what you've heard wasn't as much of a leader last year, but as a freshman or a sophomore, but this year has sort of taken on a bigger role based on their comfort?
Yeah, I think all of our sophomores are doing a good job of understanding that they're going to be counted on more this year. They weren't heavily counted on as freshmen, so they're all stepping into bigger roles this year. And they're not only their understanding of that, we're talking about JP, JC, and Jennifer, but also putting in the work that it requires to have a bigger role. And so it's one thing in theory to say like, well, I'm going to get to play more. It's another thing to do the work that's required to be able to not just earn the chance to play more, but put yourself in a position to have success when you play more. And so those three players not getting a chance to impact as much their freshman year, have been focused and are really working hard to try and have a bigger role and a bigger impact on this year's team.
All right, we'll have the last two questions here. First, JB, and then after JB, we'll go with Rob Clow.
Hey, Coach, good to see you again. Thank you so much for taking out this time. I just got a simple question for you in regards to the transition from being an NBA coach to now having to deal with the aspect of recruiting. I'm pretty sure that's a 24/7 type of job right there. And I'm just curious on how you've been able to adjust to that during these inauspicious times.
Well, the first thing is I have a great staff and I have experienced recruiters on my staff. And so in terms of our direction, we were able to hit the ground running from day one when I got the job because of their knowledge, not just of the craft of recruiting, but also of players around the country, because we haven't been able to get out and see people live. So I've leaned a lot on my 3 assistants that have been getting out and seeing people live, and a couple of them for over 20 years. So they have a great grasp on the players around the country, and great grasp and a great, I should say, great relationships with high school coaches and AAU coaches, and just how all that works. So, I pretty much do what they tell me with regards to recruiting. I talk to who they want me to talk to, and seems to work out pretty well. So I think we've been working really hard, and as I said before, it's most of the credit goes to the staff for getting us organized quickly and getting us, talking to players and talking to parents and talking to coaches to be able to get our message out there. We're not only new to our players, we're new to recruits. Duke's not new, but our version of women's basketball at Duke is new to recruits. And so it's really important that we get in front of them, either on the phone or on a Zoom, and be able to have them get to know us and get to learn us and see what we want, or I should say, be able to explain what our program is about to them.
And as a follow-up to that, you mentioned earlier that you're taking this thing one day at a time, and the season is still quote unquote in flux. We don't know what the non-conference schedule is going to bring. Are there any advantages that you'll be able to take out of the unknown that we still have out there when it comes to recruiting? Are there any advantages that you'll be able to take care of there?
I hadn't really thought of it like that. I think the most important thing for me in recruiting, just like I've said before, the most important thing with my players is just relationships. So having the time to build relationships with recruits, with their families, that's the most important thing. So if whatever delay gives you more time to build relationships, then yeah, that's an advantage. But I haven't really gone through 100 different scenarios of what it could be. I'm laser focused on just building those relationships with our recruits.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, we'll go last question here to Rob Clow.
Hey, Kara, Rob Clow, dwhoops.com. Obviously, there are a lot of players who were in the rotation last year, so you have some idea of what they can do and what you see for them for the future. I'm curious about 2 players who, in many ways, are new. And as you said, one of them is Jennifer Azay. I was curious to see how she's progressing and when you think she'll be ready. And then the second actually is Uchenna Woke. And, following her Instagram this summer, really put forth a tremendous transformation. And seeing her briefly on the court the last few years, you could see the skill, and you could see that she was a player. It's just that she wasn't able to play very long. What are you seeing from her thus far, and how do you see her fitting in at the moment?
Yeah, they're both close players for us. They've both been doing a great job of, doing what we're asking of them, trying to get better, trying to play, trying to grasp all the different concepts. So, I haven't spent too much time about, with last year or years before, or kind of what they were doing or anything like that. Everybody to me comes in and, we put in our system and we see who can grasp it quickly, and we see who can make the fewest amount of mistakes and when playing, and if they make mistakes, not making repeated ones. And so that's kind of the judgment in what they do, and they're all different in what they can bring. Jen is physical. Uchenna is physical. They bring a different style to the post position, but I've been pleased with both of them. I think they've both been doing really well, and we have some solid size on the roster, so we're able to go against each other, and we're able to push each other, and I think that's helped both of them.
As a follow-up, is Jen completely ready to go?
Jen's been practicing.
Oh, okay, great. Is she showing any kind of rust or anything from the knee?
Well, I don't know about that. That's a trainer question, but she's been practicing and she's been working hard.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Kara. I appreciate your time and, everybody joining the call today. I did just send out some photos. We'll have video later as well. If you need anything else, don't hesitate to reach out. Look forward to hopefully seeing more people in person at some point. And as soon as we have a schedule that we can release, we will definitely get that out. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.